In this video, I want us to have a look at some remarks made by Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa. The remarks are going to inform the basis of our analysis right now. As Africans, we need to speak with one voice. It's important that our current leaders do not take glory by being marked as good leaders from the global north. They have the capacity to divide us. We must be identified as good leaders by our own people. Emmerson Mnangagwa, President of Zimbabwe. Those remarks are very relevant to the situation in Kenya, and only how I wish William Ruto could get time to understand those remarks. I want us to put the remarks into perspective for us to understand what's happening here. If you are watching us but you have not yet subscribed, subscribe, give this video a like. Let's proceed. The question I want us to answer here is William Ruto being seen as a betrayer by his fellow African leaders and even Africans? A few weeks ago, William Ruto was in Tanzania. He attended a function in Tanzania, and Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu told William Ruto point blank on his face that he should not be desperate to please the West. And those remarks were seen as Samia's response to William Ruto's recent actions. And we still remember, Malema was in the country recently, where he also questioned William Ruto's commitment to the African ideals. And Malema actually could not understand where William Ruto stands, because upon William Ruto being sworn in as the president, he created an impression that he was a Pan-Africanist. And he was even calling for the strengthening of the African currencies at the expense of the United States of America's dollar. And then as time went by, William Ruto kept flip-flopping to a point you could not understand where his stand was. So Ruto is just being seen as somebody without any stand at all. And we can still remember, upon Israel-Hamas war breaking, William Ruto very, very fast supported Israel. A day later, African Union castigated Israel for the conflict. So again, there William Ruto was seen as if he was betraying the position taken by Africa. And there are so many instances where William Ruto really has proved that he's very desperate to please the West. The recent one being Haiti. Haiti is one of the Caribbean countries, in fact regarded as part of North America. The superpowers are there, but they are not even interested in taking their troops to Haiti. A developing country like Kenya, William Ruto offers to take Kenyan troops to Haiti. All this have really just convinced Africans and even Kenyans that Ruto has been very desperate to please the West. And before we dig deep, I want us to borrow some words of wisdom from the late former president of Mozambique, Samora Machel. This is what Samora said. The day you hear the whites speak of me in good terms, that day do not share your secrets with me, because that means I would have betrayed you already. So the moment you see the West trying to praise you or talk good of you, then just know you have betrayed your people. Marshall was talking to his countrymen and women in Mozambique, and it actually applies to Kenya. The moment you see the West pressing a leader, that leader has clearly betrayed his or her people. Look at what is happening in Kenya. The removal of the subsidies, the taxes, the sale of these parastatals, we are being told that it's IMF and World Bank piling pressure on William Ruto to sell these parastatals, and actually it's these bodies that piled pressure on William Ruto to remove the subsidies and all those. Back in the country, Kenyans are suffering. The cost of living is going up. IMF sees nothing wrong with that. They are pressing William Ruto. So Ruto is pleasing the West. The West is seeing him as a good leader, while locally it's clear he has betrayed his own people. There are so many decisions and policies being initiated by this government that are being influenced from the West. And that's why sometimes back Okiom Tatan actually called for the impeachment of William Ruto, because Ruto is like a person who has committed treason. He's betraying his country and trying to please outsiders. So the remarks by Zimbabwean president are very relevant in our Kenyan context. It's clear William Ruto is desperate to please the West. As I conclude, Ruto is also coming out as a person who suffers what we call inferiority complex. Anytime he goes to the West, he suffers inferiority complex. So anything that is being told from the West by those Western leaders, his answer is always yes, sir. And also, if you look at the so many trips he has been making outside of the country, it appears that William Ruto's dream was to tour the world. He sees that as a very big achievement, but the only problem here, he is using taxpayers' money to globetrot, which a responsible leader should not actually do. Let me stop there, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching us but you have not yet subscribed, subscribe, give this video a like. Let's meet in our next analysis. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, I think there is a very serious problem in the National Treasury of this country. The National Treasury of this country behaves as if it is the treasury of the executive of this country. I think it is time we come up with an independent institution that disperses funds to the three arms of government and to the two levels of government, so that these monopolistic tendencies of National Treasury determining who to allocate resources as and when it pleases them comes to an end, Honourable Speaker.
I've just come from watching the Chancellor's autumn statement in Parliament, where he's delivered the biggest set of tax cuts since the 1980s. Because of the decisions that we've taken over the past year to halve inflation and to grow the economy, we're now in a position to do what I always said we would do, which is to cut your taxes. We're cutting the rate of national insurance from 12% to 10% for 28 million workers. We're raising the national living wage to £11.44, an £1,800 pay increase, with more support also for the most vulnerable and we're cutting taxes for businesses to get them to invest more and increase our growth and productivity. This is an autumn statement that not only is cutting your taxes, it's also going to make sure that we grow our economy for the future.